Wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, I just wanted to give 94% of the audience a chance to turn it off since they realized I was back on the show this week. Now they've got that opportunity. So, welcome to another episode of Outwired, gentlemen. Did you have a good time last week without me? The answer is obviously yes. Just how good of a time is my question.
Do you want to tell them the truth, Scott?
It was miserable, Brian. It was miserable without you here.
There it is.
Thank you.
At the show, we spent kind of like crying. So it was kind of embarrassing, really.
Yeah, it was a lot of heavy drinking to try to cope. It was. Scott said the F word 4 times in a row.
Time. What are you guys doing? There's supposed to be heavy drinking all the time. It's Outwired. What am I drinking today? I don't even know. It's so dark in here. Like, it looks light, but it's actually kind of dark in here. I have something called Babe. We have a camera? There's a Babe. Babe. It doesn't work. I don't know where this is from. It's got to be from Calgary or Vancouver or something like that. Calgary. Babe from Calgary. What is it? What kind of beer is it? I don't even know. Blueberry vanilla ale. A blueberry vanilla ale. And this is Old Beautiful Okami Kosu Japanese ale from Calgary. So which one should I have first?
Old Beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah, they both sound like Tinder handles, to be honest.
Maybe it is. How do you know that Tinder is the app today?
Oh, I don't. In fact, if I'm saying it out loud, it's clearly not the app.
But if it is, you might be in trouble.
No, I'm not in trouble.
ChatGPT it.
Nobody's swiping or doing whatever you dipping or dip. I don't know. We should get off this stuff here.
Okay, you brought it up. Anyway, it was a good show. You guys talked about some good things last week?
I think so.
Grease.
And the Hounds of Bar agree.
Release the hounds. Release the hounds.
I'm drinking a blueberry one first. Japanese one will save.
That was perfect timing.
It was.
Was it a good show?
Obviously, yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think I hope anyway. It felt like we covered a lot of stuff that would be really valuable to somebody who's looking at maybe getting into the market, buying or selling their first campground. So, I hope so. I think we brought some good value. Scott had a lot of good data points to share as well.
And you know what? It's I have to say, Greg, I thought it was more animated in the conversation last week than I've not all the time, but I could tell you were really into it. I could tell you're really into the topic.
It is that Greg is intimidated by me. Gets nervous and fluttery or doesn't talk.
Well, isn't everyone, Brian? Isn't everyone?
Yeah. I mean, you look at my face, how could you not be intimidated by have you seen me?
We imagine Jessica is off camera just chewing her nails the whole time and sweating.
Well, no, she's got a couple other monitors over there. She doesn't have to look at me, so she's fine. Yeah. She's blessed. I'm glad you guys had a good show. I want to start off with the things that came across your desk. I'm going to be selfish and talk about some interesting things for me since I just came back from vacation first. That's going to be what I'm going to talk about. Speaking of dogs behind you, Scott, I went on a trip to Churchill, Manitoba, which is 2 hours east to Winnipeg on a flight and 2 hours north to Churchill on a flight. But I took a train from Edmonton to Winnipeg to Churchill, which took me 3 days on 2 different trains to get there. But really, up in the subarctic, not quite the Arctic, but the subarctic circle is where Churchill, Manitoba is. Really famous for bird watching, as Greg knows, and the polar bear capital of the world. Although June is the worst time of year to see polar bears, but we got to see one. Actually hunted and chased him around all day with a really good guy up there called Leroy. Runs subarctic tours. If you guys are ever up there, or anybody else is who's watching the show, look Leroy up. He hung out with us. We had him booked for the whole day, but he was just going to take us around to see the sights and everything else. And he forgot his jacket and this camper, actually, he had set up on a ridge, right? He didn't live there, but he had it set up on a ridge. So we drove up there and we're like, what's that white thing really, really far away? And we got binoculars out and it's a polar bear. So instead of doing our tour, we just tracked the polar bear all day, which is fine with us, right? But it's so interesting. You sit there and they look like a rock. You're like, is it a rock or a bear? Is it a rock or a bear? This is a big thing in Churchill because they look like rocks when they're just kind of like really far away, right? You're not getting anywhere close to that thing to discern it. But so like, yeah, that's pretty fun. We track that. And then really big for beluga whales. So like every summer, right in June, July, August, like 60,000 beluga whales will come in this little river estuary near like right on Churchill. And they will literally like hang out in that bay there. And like you can like we took a Zodiac out and like they are so talkative and so curious. They'll come right up to the side of the boat. Like we saw hundreds of them everywhere you look. There was dozens of belugas up and down and swimming up to the boat and chirping. And we had hydrophones under the water, and so that's my girlfriend's favorite type of whale. So that's what we were primarily up there for. But then dogs, we did a dog. It was dog carting because there was no snow on the ground, right? But we went out to this guy. His name's Dave Daly. He actually is really big involved in Parliament for the province of Manitoba. He's part of the Métis tribe, like the indigenous people up there. And so he works on like the federal and provincial level to like advance their rights and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot I want to learn more about that stuff up there. But anyway, he's got like 40 or 50 dogs in his yard that he maintains and runs, and like it's like he takes care of them. And there's so much we learned about dogs. Like I thought I knew a lot about dogs. There's so much we learned about dogs and the respect like that I have for that guy and how he like runs his operation. But like one is they love doing it, right? He's not whipping them. These dogs love to run. They love to do the things, right? But he talked us through the whole thing that goes into like dog sledding, how there are leaders and how he determines which dogs the leaders are, and then which ones are, I think, the team dogs, which go in the middle, and then I forget the name of the one for the last one. But then each dog has a different personality, and some like to run fast or slow, and some like to be in the front, and some like to be in the back and always looking, and some will, like you can watch it when we were sledding, like some will lean left and lean right consistently, and some gallop with their feet and some don't. And like you have to figure all this out. So like the dogs that match each other and complement each talent go with like, it's crazy. It's like, I don't know if you guys know a lot about boxing, but that's what I told him. I was like, the first time I learned really about boxing, I was blown away, like the mathematics and science that go into boxing, and you just think people are beating each other up if you don't know anything better. But that's what like dog sledding opened up for me. Like there's so much intricate stuff in here that I don't understand. Like I had respect for all those people before, but I didn't have that level of respect. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Team building.
Yep. Yeah. Right on.
So it was completely fascinating to see the different personalities, and he can tell you about every single one of them. We walked through the yard, like we were the first people he took out this year on the tour. So we had like a really extended tour, walked through the whole yard with the dogs, and you could see like some of them are shy and not shy, and some of them will come up to you and will come up to you, and some of them will jump on their doghouse, and some of them want petted and don't pet it, and some just, it's crazy how they have so many different personalities, just like humans do. And like I think I knew that, but I never really thought about it, if that makes sense. I don't know. Anyway, that was my one thing. So I had a good trip. What's on your guys' desk?
What do you got, Mr. Barr?
You know, I think for me, what it was is it's kind of one of these ongoing themes, but I'm a little bummed it took this long. But the governor of Maine is currently up speaking of Canada, in the visiting the Maritimes.
Okay.
To, kind of see what we can do, to help, because the tourist industry here in Maine is getting hit really hard by this. It's interesting how certain figures are positioned as someone who works with data all the time, but the people who don't like our governor are like, why is she even bothering? It's only 5% of our tourism dollars, and it's like it's a lot of dollars. Today's word calendar is nuance. The word of the day is nuance, which escapes whenever something gets that political. And it's unfortunate it's that political, because I feel like, but this is the kind of thing that I feel like we need to do. It has to be done a little bit more on the grassroots level to kind of. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult. It's hard for her to go up there and say, "Hey, you can like us, you know. We're likable people, really. You know, so anyway, just trying to salvage some of that, trying to, you know, see what kind of partnerships maybe they can come up with to encourage some tourism, maybe, you know, make a dent here later in the year, which, you know, I think, you know, we on this podcast we talked about a lot is, you know, what can you do? What kind of things can you do?
Yeah.
This is the idea of, will it work? Well, I have no idea, but at least she's doing.
Somebody's trying. Yeah.
She's giving it a shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, like it's still like it's so interesting to me because nobody up here really doesn't like the American people, to be clear, right? Like we have no problem with a large majority of the American people, right? And we won't rehash all the problems we have, but I ran into a lady. I think I told you guys in the Outwired channel. I ran into a lady who was a birder, who was up in Churchill, and like said she caught 171 species. I had to like Google it, like because I wasn't sure I heard her right on the plane because she was on the same plane with us on the way back, and it was like there's like 300 and some different species of birds in Churchill or something like that, depending on the number you believe or whatever.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, like, but she was up there and she like unprompted. She was like, we normally go to Alaska, but we're in Churchill because we're boycotting the U.S. So, like, it's a thing. But it's interesting. I sent you that, guys, and I don't want to dive into this too much, but I sent you guys that article on Hawaii. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. I was kind of spamming you guys with a bunch of stuff yesterday. But there was that article in Hawaii that had nothing to do with camping that says tourism is down significantly in Hawaii, too, from international, Canada and Europe, but also from some local people in the States, too. So I think this is probably a thing that at some point we should dive more into. Like, what's the impacts outside of just outdoor hospitality too? Because at some point I want to expand that definition, right? I texted you about this, Greg.
Yeah.
Like we've had people reach out to us for the Fireside Chat show who run hotels that are focused on outdoor experiences in nature. That's outdoor hospitality. Right? It is. Just like the guy on the show earlier today who focuses on tenters, like obviously that's outdoor hospitality, right? But it's a different form. It's an untraditional. And so I think there's an opportunity for us and other people in the industry to lead this charge of like, why does outdoor hospitality have to be RVs? Or
it doesn't. And there are a lot of places that are coming online now that are more like they sort of bridge a gap between, and Scott, you may have talked about this at one point, between like a glamping operation and a boutique hotel. They're very much, and I'm trying to think of I can't think of the name of the space that they've created for this, but they're sort of falling in a gray area because people, and I think a lot of that's from glamping, right? Glamping has been so successful when executed properly, and it's, you know, very hot.
Glamping is just a boutique hotel if you're doing the higher
exactly
end.
This is what I'm getting at, like that's the gray area that's happening now, right? That okay, well, some people canvas tent is too much, and I don't want a cabin that's really far away from these other cabins. I'm kind of freaked out by that. I'd kind of like all the cabins kind of close together, which sort of flies in the face of what we know about what glampers want. But those places are wildly popular when executed properly, and I'm struggling to think of the name. I'll try to think of what they call these places. But yeah, to your point, that's why isn't that outdoor hospitality, and why wouldn't we want to welcome them? I mean, grow the tent a little bit, right?
Well, we're going to, right? Like,
yeah.
Like we're gonna direct Modern Campground to do that. To start covering some of those people, and we're gonna have some of the people on Fireside Chats. But I think that starts with us, right? Like, why can't we just expand our own market?
Absolutely.
That's consulting, right? That's like, okay, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Nobody has the knowledge that Greg does or Scott does for data for outdoor hospitality, or for campground knowledge for you, Greg, at Vireo, for strategy. So like, okay, like take our knowledge.
Yep, absolutely. Scott's got an excellent definition here.
I didn't see it. Like, it's not.
I did it in the private chat.
Oh, is it not public? We don't want to make public the definition, or
it can be public because this came out last year. It's we used research to do this, and I came up with this definition.
Just tell us. Like, I can't click on my little thing to make it big.
All right.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Outdoor hospitality is distinguished by its accommodations, such as tents, RVs, cabins, or glamping structures, venue types, campgrounds, outdoor resorts, as an example, proximity to outdoor recreation, and an emphasis on facilitating guest interaction and outdoor experiences, such as, for example, by providing communal fireside seating. What unifies these elements is the incorporation of staff, guides, or experts who are at the very least available for assistance and guidance or actively engaged in delivering support, information, instruction, and guidance.
I like it.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, it's time we I'm thinking about this for a little bit, but it's time, like just like the tent guy on the show today, Fireside Chats. Like it's time we just take our definition and just make it whatever we want. And I'm not saying that people should listen to us or have to follow us, but like I think the three of us could qualify as leaders in the outdoor hospitality space, among many. But like, right?
Yeah.
So like, if not us, who? Let's do it.
Yeah, I think the key is, and if you go through the definition, and it's a little bit easier if you read it at some point, Brian, but it's the idea of casting a wide net, but also finding what the common threads are, through there. So that's really what I tried to accomplish with that.
For sure. Okay. Greg, what was on your desk?
Oddly enough, the T word. We say it too much, but it's there again. I've got a client who I set up with another consulting firm who does retail space. And as part of their retail space consulting, they do procurement, and they are, here's our procurement pricing today at this hour.
Yeah.
But, watch Twitter, and then you'll know when it's all going to bump up by 50% or down by 10% or sideways by 8%. So they have really taken a hit on some of their procurement contracts because, one, they're losing people. They're partially losing people to ignorance, right? People are upset that they can't define their prices and lock them in. And it's like, well, okay, listen, we may be in procurement, right? But we don't have 100,000 square feet of warehousing space to move this stuff over. So like we're procuring it from you, but it's from the source, and guess where the source is? It has to go on a boat and across a big water. Can you guess where the source is, right? So they're just, every day's a new day for them. And so it's interesting to watch that interaction as it ebbs and flows. You got a client who says, okay, I want to make an order now for my end of season stuff. Okay, well, if you do it like today, you get it at this price, but who knows if you wait till tomorrow, then there's that feeling of, the folks that are procuring this almost get painted as a bad guy in this, right? Are you doing this to me just to get me to buy it today so that there's more outlay, you have more cash coming? Well, no, do you not watch the news? Like it's just wild.
To be fair, the narrative in the fucking news on some places is like, how dare Walmart and everybody else pass along costs to the consumer? Don't you fucking do that. You're just a greedy business.
And like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, and we all like to jump on, I shouldn't say we all, I certainly do. I love to jump on a giant corporation that's worth billions of dollars and somehow gets tax breaks when they want to build a store, even though they have billions of dollars. We don't have to get on that topic, right? But it's not fair then to also say, well, gosh, they shouldn't pass on those tariffs because the little guy has to do it. Like, it's a cost. If I have a cost, I have to make up for that cost somewhere.
Yeah, you're running a business.
I mean, it's a really weird time. So anyway, it's probably not even a good one to bring up because it's going to take us down a whole rabbit hole. But that's what I've been kind of watching is the emails back and forth between the consultants and the client, and listening to the procurement people talk about how, like, just order today, just order right now. Don't ask what the price is going to be. It is what it is right now. And as you well know, you wake up tomorrow, it could be 25% higher. It could be 25% higher by the time I just click send on the email. It's just, it's a lot of that uncertainty that we always talk about. So
yeah, I won't let us go down a rabbit hole, but I do want to ask one question. Like, it feels like with everything that's coming out of the United States, let's just leave it at that we haven't heard a lot about the T word recently.
Yep.
But like, they're still high. right?
They're still there. Yeah.
10% on China and 10% on everybody else, right?
Yep.
And then, I don't know, like you said, tomorrow, July is the end of the 90 days.
Maybe it gets better. Maybe it gets worse. Maybe it stays where it is. Yeah.
But like, I haven't heard a lot of talk about it. So
no, it's been pretty quiet. There's been a lot of other things occupying the news media and the administration, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but it has resulted in a little bit of a little less uncertainty, right? Because they've been roughly the same for the last whatever it is 90 days. So it's made things a little bit easier. But as that 90 days comes up to expire, I think that's what's causing the grief right now. Is people are like, well, what what can I get this 2 weeks from now? Can I get it in my
yeah,
who knows? Nobody's got a crystal ball.
It's taco, man.
Yeah.
You know what that stands for, Scott?
Yes, I do.
Stay away from that one. It's taco. But anyway, yeah, I think it's fascinating, all the changes and things that are happening. Like, I hope it stabilizes. I hope it's a good thing. I think my gut says that it kind of will. It feels like it will, but who really knows?
Yeah, and in the meantime, it gives us so much to talk about.
Besides that, or because of that?
Yes, yes to all.
Well, at least we know that the future is secure for you guys, because you guys are totally focused on A1 and making sure that
A1. You were late to that party, by the way. The A1 came out.
I'm sorry, like, I was on vacation. I don't know.
No, I mean that was before you went on vacation.
That was like 2 months ago. I know.
That's been around for a while. The A1 is awesome. And there were some great memes that circulated after that, like the steak sauce, and it was really good.
Do we need to play this real quick, or do we need to not play this?
No, don't play it. Please don't play it. Nobody needs to be reminded. We're all so well aware.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's jump into our main topics for today. So we got 2 topics that we're going to focus on. We're going to talk about disaster prep planning, heat waves, floods, mayhem, chaos, how to prepare for all that, all those kinds of things, I think, first. And then Greg will go on vacation or whatever he does when he drops off the show early. And then we're going to talk a little bit about credit card fraud, but like specifically, there have been some pretty big attacks on reservation companies that shall remain nameless. It's not their fault, right? Have great security, whatever else. But these things are quite widespread and can be very, very damaging to you and your business. Whether they attack the reservation system or they're attacking your website, and these things are getting more prevalent. It's a big, serious conversation we need to have around paying attention to that kind of stuff and hacking and the security of your website and all those things that you probably don't know about. So stick around for that later. But all right, where are we starting off, gentlemen? This was your idea, Scott. Do you want to lead?
Sure. Weather, weather, and how important it is, and how much it can impact an entire season for those, especially with the limited seasons. I think it was 2 years ago here in Maine, the month of June, it rained all but 4 days, and the campgrounds were hurting. They were hurting. Out west, it's the wildfires. If you have the powers that be warning you not to go outside because of air quality, people aren't going to come camping at your campground in all likelihood. So to me, this is kind of an important topic, and to just kind of noodle it around a bit on, like, well, what can you do, if anything? What can you do when these severe conditions, start in? Again, I'll use us here again. We're in a weather cycle. Well, this week it was 100 degrees here, which it never is. So people aren't going to want to camp. 2, we just looked at the weather, and for the last 6 out of 7 Saturdays, it's going to rain too. So we're
next 6 out of 7.
Out of the last 7 Saturdays, it rained all but 1.
Okay, all right.
Wow.
So if you're a campground and you have these weekenders, they look at the weather report. They're like, or they'll stay at a different short-term rental maybe. So I think this is why I wanted to have the conversation. I know it's a difficult one because the answers may be elusive, but I think it's worth talking about.
Well, no answer's elusive. The only answers that are elusive are the ones you're not willing to have a discussion about.
There you have it, old mighty guru. So,
I mean, it's true. Like, if you're not willing to have the conversation about the hard things in life, whether that's tariffs or what you're talking about or whatever else, right? How can you solve any problems?
no,
So-
I'm agreeing.
Greg, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a really tough one to Scott's point, because what the hell's the answer? You can't. It'd be like trying to fight gravity. Like, it wins every time. There's no winning against it. So if it rains 6 out of 7 Saturdays, that's just the way it is. This is why
you can't win against the rain, but you can for sure adapt your strategy.
You could try to adapt your strategy, right? Yeah, but operationally, boy, I hope everybody, and I know they don't because I didn't have one a lot of years. Have a reserve budget around, folks. If you don't have a bucket of money for years like this, start making one now, because you've got to have some kind of reserve, because these are going to happen. To Scott's point, in our 26 years of owner operation, now I'm spacing because it's been a little while. I think it's 4. We had in 26 years, we had 4 Mays, and May is a big deal for us here in Ohio. Obviously Memorial Day is at the end of it, but Mother's Day is in there. And it's people breaking that cabin fever, right? We would open in April, but April in Ohio and Northeast Ohio can be sketchy. You could sometimes get snow. May is when the weather really starts to turn. Flowers are blooming and birds are coming back, and right, it's beautiful in May. We had 4 Mays where we had 26 days of rain out of 31. 4 of those in our 26 years. And I mean, the vivid memories I have of those years, watching the balance in the checking account, going, damn, this is not good. Because if you lose a holiday weekend at our park, the way our business came, we were heavily seasonal, but we did have some transient business. But the 3 holiday weekends made up 30% of our transient business for the year. So if you lost a holiday weekend to weather, it was a bad year. Like, there wasn't much you could do to recover from it. So have a bucket of cash somewhere. You need some reserves somewhere to buffer against those. Otherwise, what strategies do you use? You try to capitalize off it and call it liquid sunshine and change people's perspectives, right? But
you do
again,
that in
that's hard to do,
right? Your strategy is to have a plan for this, as we're going to talk about. To have a plan for your employees, to have a plan for your guests, to have a what if it rains 6 out of 7 weekends?
What if it's 100 degrees?
I'm going to bring my activities inside. I'm going to do these instead. Here's the alternate rain activity schedule. I have a plan. I have things for you to do. I have amazing stuff. Here's a curated list of shit in the area that you can go do. That's all sort of inside or protected from the weather, or doesn't matter if it rains, or I'm going to rent raincoats, or I'm going to provide them to you, or I'm going to all these things, right? Like,
that's if they're there.
Iceland years ago, and like I know it's going to rain all the time in Iceland, but that's
right.
Okay, because waterfalls still look great in the rain,
and you're prepped for it, right? But people making their weekend plans, to Scott's point, people making their weekend plans, to Scott's point, they see that, I'm just not going. Then all your additional changes to your activities
but that's because you're not marketing it correctly, right? Then you need to get the people on the phone or in the email, or you need to have set up your email marketing in advance. Here's our activities list for this way, and if it rains, here's these things. Again, you're not going to save everybody. This is not about that, right? Obviously, it's going to be detrimental to a park if it rains and your outdoor hospitality, for sure. If it's 100 degrees and it's really hot, for sure. But there are ways that you just don't give up 100% of that audience. Maybe you can retain 50, 60%. But
and there's always that core group that they're going to come no matter what, right? Unless it looks terrible, right?
They get locked in, for some reason they're locked in. And so they're going to. It's that kind of last minute guest, the person that is like, maybe I'll find an alternative. I mean, what are your thoughts on discounts? I mean, is that even reasonable to consider?
It's absolutely reasonable in my mind. I'm sorry, I don't know if you're asking me or Brian.
Both. Yeah, I'm just throwing.
Well, you first, Greg, but I wouldn't offer discounts. But go ahead.
Yeah, in my mind, it's the old adage, the campsite's a banana, right? And it's going brown at the end of every day. If you can rent it for $5 at the end of the night, it's better than $0.
But that's not like, again, there's a difference between a discount and a prepared, like, I want to, like, dynamic
Sure.
pricing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, discounts. But again, whether or not they drive, what you're really trying to do is get inside somebody's head and affect their perception of the experience that they're going to have when they get there if it rains all weekend. And if that's a family of 5 coming in a 28-foot travel trailer, you're probably not getting them because they got those 3 little kids running around. And if we're all 5 stuck in this trailer because maybe I don't have a great big outdoor shelter, or I don't have a big rec hall where I can have indoor activities, those people are probably going home. We used to laugh. This is going to sound terrible, but you'll see why in a second. We used to laugh at the amount of deaths in the family that would happen 3 or 4 days before a weekend when we didn't have a solid cancellation policy. If the forecast on a Tuesday or Wednesday was for rain all weekend, there would suddenly be aunts and uncles and grandmas and brothers and just all these deaths in the family that would occur. And we'd get all these phone calls and people trying to get what little deposit we would take back. And it's incredible that people will use that as an excuse, but it never failed. That would happen all the time. So you can also adjust your cancellation policy to help a little bit with that, but it doesn't help put people in sites if it's going to pour all weekend, or if it's going to be a heat index of 104, 105 like we've had here for a couple of days, or Scott's putting up with now. It's really difficult to navigate.
I have a strategy for you. It's not my own, if you'd like to hear it.
Let's hear it. Let's debate it.
Jessica, can you like share my screen over here? So we have our old friend Burnout Bob is making a comeback.
Fuck that guy.
It's how to politely tell people that rain and heat are just God's way of testing their camping grit while you hold their deposit hostage with a smile.
That's not that far from the truth, actually.
Marketed as a premium experience if it's raining. Oh no, it's not rain. It's nature's immersive sound bath included free with your stay. You can't pay for this kind of ambience in the city. True. Offer rain-ready upgrade kits. Make a $5 storm survival pack. This is actually not a terrible idea. Like with Burnout Bob, you're finding nuggets of information in here as we go through this, right? Storm survival pack. Poncho, hot cocoa, flashlight, and existential dread. And tell them they're weather warriors now. Throw in a fake certificate if you're feeling spicy. That's actually not a terrible, like the fake certificate and the existential dread, but it's not terrible to have that kind of welcome packet for guests, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on your, like, obviously pick and choose what you want to put in it, but create wet weather perks. Indoor s'more station, aka microwave plus delusion. That works. You have those in your cabins, right? Sometimes soggy bingo. The winner gets dry socks and emotional validation. Free raccoon. Always raccoons.
Always raccoons.
Free raccoon therapy session under the awning. Tell them it's the perfect time for board games with strangers, reading the book they lied about finishing, or a couples fight they've been postponing for 6 months. Like bringing couples together. Like get the fight out of your system, right? There's no better time than a rainy day at a campground. Just like make sure the volume is not spilling over into the site next door to you. But the rain helps with that, right? The rain helps mask that. No? Yes? I don't know.
Yes.
Quite possibly.
Our campsites, brag about your drainage. Our campsites are 43% more puddle resistant than the competition. Verified by the American Society of Not Drowning. Note, I made that up, but confidence is key. 100 degrees for Scott and Maine. Sell it as a detox spa. Come sweat out your regrets and internal demons in the natural Kansas sauna.
Sweat lodge. Yeah.
Yeah. Bonus, it's deep. Bring your own cucumber water. Heat wave activities. Sunburn, slip and slide. Just a plastic sheet and pure regret. Shade hunting Olympics, and cook your own breakfast on a rock challenge. That's actually interesting. I bet you could do that in 100-degree heat somewhere if you had some rock.
I think you could, yes.
And I bet you would attract people as an activity. That would be really interesting if you could actually do that. Emergency shade stations. Put up one tarp and act like it's a climate-controlled oasis. Add a fan that doesn't work for dramatic effect, and serve lemonade that's 90% ice and 10% whatever was left in the cooler. And offers Sunshine Survivor discounts, but retroactively. They don't cancel, they stay, they sweat. You email them, you survive the great heat wave of 2025. Enjoy 10% off your next stay, you beast. boom, you just trap them into loyalty via heat stroke. And blame the forecast.
I actually like that.
Blame the forecast. It says 100 degrees, but that's the temp in the Walmart parking lot. Out here with the breeze off the algae pond, it's like a tropical dream with grasshoppers. So then we got bonus moves, and then we'll be done. The cancellation policy reinforcer. Name it something official and terrifying. The Ellis Lake No Babies Weather Commitment Clause. We camp, we don't cancel unless there are literal frogs falling from the sky. FOMO it up. Post photos of people glamping in the rain or chilling shirtless in the heat like it's Coachella. Caption, you could be this level of legendary, but you're thinking about canceling. Psychological trap option. If they cancel, email them a survey that includes the question, what do you regret more, canceling your trip or the fact that Chad still hasn't proposed? No context, just trauma bonding. This is terrible advice. So
It definitely is.
Anyway.
And there's also, CampSpot uses it, KOA uses
Weather
it.
guarantee.
I'm not sure who else, but yeah, there's sensible weather, right? Which allegedly, I don't know. I know people who own KOAs, but I've not talked to them about the addition of it. They've never brought it up to me, which makes me think that it's neither a pain point nor something that's this glorious new thing that's making their lives easier. But it is out there and available.
Track of thought, but do we know if it's opt-in on KOA or they turn it on by default?
I don't know. Wouldn't want to. I don't want to speculate on that one. I could probably find out while we're sitting here talking, but I do not know. But yeah, I mean, for a nominal charge to the guest, they can choose it if they want to. It doesn't have to be put in on all their reservations. If weather affects it, they get a refund. Campground doesn't lose their deposit or any of the business.
But what qualifies as weather?
So that's interesting. I have that right here.
Oh, good. I was gonna.
So yeah. So the trigger conditions are a certain number of hours of rain. I don't know what that is, but certain number of hours of rain, excessive heat. So like over 100 degrees for 3 hours or more, and high winds or thunderstorms. And so
during their stay or forecasted or
these are all the sort of secret sauce things that I don't know much about it because
I'm going to see what O3 will find out while you talk. So go ahead.
But that's another way, right? And probably the best way, the most tech forward anyway that I've seen for people to try to combat this. Because otherwise, to Scott's point earlier, what the hell do you do? There's not much you can do. If people see that rain and they want to cancel, they're just going to cancel. You can have deposit cancellation policy that is really not friendly to them. And, I always tell my clients that they should be taking full stay deposits with like a 7-day cancellation window, nothing inside 7 days. And that's really hard if you're, I'm a camper too. And I know that would suck on my end, but listen, demand is what it is. If you've got high demand and you can do that, then you should absolutely do that, because otherwise people will on a Friday call you and say, oh, geez, Aunt Vera is kind of sick. Really? Well, the forecast just came out that it's supposed to be a thunderstorm tomorrow, and that's odd that Aunt Vera was fine until about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, but you're definitely not saying that, right? Like that, and they know that. That's why they're using that.
That's why they got you. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. And I understand both sides, but we're here to talk about the B2B side, right? So as a business owner, yeah, you should take a full stay deposit. Absolutely. It's becoming more and more common. In fact, in a lot of places and park systems, that's the norm now. So take a full stay, 7 days, 14 days on your cabins. Absolutely. But sensible weather is, what did you find, Brian? Did you find anything on it as far as it's
still looking.
Still looking. Okay. So yeah, it integrates with your PMS. The guests get their tagline is sort of, you can still enjoy your trip even if it rains, and you get some of your money back. And I don't know. That's probably your best bet.
So the owner doesn't lose any money in this case? Sensible Weather is footing the bill, or what?
Yes. As my understanding. I'm not a Sensible Weather.
It would be fascinating to understand how much money they lose during 100-degree heat waves for a week or two.
Probably not as many if you think about how many reservations they're making that don't get canceled. Most of the time the weather's fine, right?
Yeah.
Depending on where you're at. I mean, granted, and I don't think they're offering this
trip insurance or whatever, right?
Right. And my guess is they're not offering
this. I'll just check the box and pay you $16. I think I read they make $2 billion off the Delta Airlines stuff every year.
There
like,
you go.
What are you doing?
And they're probably not offering this to campgrounds in Yuma, right? Like that's just probably not a thing, because otherwise nobody goes. It's 127,000 degrees every day. It's the surface of the sun. But I think that's a really good way to sort of mitigate your risk as an owner, at least worth looking into.
All right, here's what I got, with the caveat that this is AI. This could be a hallucination in some aspects of this, right? But this is what O3 returned. My prompt was, tell me specific details about the sensible weather guarantee that CampSpot and KOA uses. Very specific details: how much rain, what volume of rain, how much heat, when forecasted or actual. And it says, this is supposedly what CampSpot and KOA actually put in writing. What's covered: CampSpot is rain only, no wind, lightning, or snow. KOA integration is rain only. A high heat add-on is available that has not rolled out at every KOA. Does this sound like legit, or is it maybe making this up?
No, this sounds legit.
Okay. Trigger metric: forecast hours of rain is the NOAA day of forecast, not raw chance of rain. Coverage window is 8 a.m. to 2000 local time. And KOA is the same hours of rain forecast metric pulled daily by Sensible at each park. Typical threshold is dynamic by site and season, but the onboarding toolkit shows 1 to 3 hours of greater than 1.5 millimeters of rain. So like a lot of rain. Like 1.5 millimeters is a lot of rain.
It is
3 hours straight. Like that's basically a downpour. As the most common breakpoints. That's 1.5 millimeters per hour. Spec is the level Sensible defines as noticeable rain. Same logic for KOA. Example, real bookings published by Sensible, 3-hour threshold for a June Tennessee campsite, 1-hour threshold for an August Utah hotel room. High heat add-on is not live on CampSpot, optional participating KOAs. Trigger is forecast daily high above a site-specific comfort cap, usually 90 to 95 Fahrenheit, or the 90th percentile historic high. Forecast versus actual. Payout is locked in on the morning forecast. Even if the day clears up, you keep the money. If the forecast misses rain, you still get paid. Okay. So how do they handle that though? Like if you go on and as a consumer and you're claiming this, like you're saying they won't approve the claim until the morning of the camping trip?
That's what that looks like. Like I say, I don't have, and maybe I shouldn't have brought it up because I'm not that deep into this, but
what still is worthwhile to have, right? Nobody's
absolutely.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're soft enough. I'm still looking at that. So you're talking about 0.06 inches of rain per hour. So in 3 hours, that would be less than 2/10 of an inch of rain. And as someone who tent camps and goes backcountry camping, like Mr. Barr, these are some soft campers, aren't they, Scott?
I mean, that's
not a raincoat.
1.5 millimeters is quite a bit of rain, guys. Like, I mean, that's quite a bit more rain than you think it is, I think.
Maybe I can't do the conversion because it's
big.
Like that's an inch across the whole. Like, we'll ask in a second. Maybe we're crazy.
What were you saying, Scott? I cut you off.
There's 10 millimeters in the centimeter, and there's like 2.3 centimeters in an inch.
2.54.
Okay, there you have it. So that's 225 millimeters. Yeah.
It says 0.06 inches of rain, right?
Yeah.
Per hour. So in 3 hours, you wouldn't even have 2/10 of an inch of rain. Am I doing the math there wrong?
Right, but that's across, like, it's not in a puddle that it's an inch, right? That's like that has to be a downpour across all the.
Man, I gotta tell you, as somebody who tent camps and goes out, just get a raincoat, people.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Okay, I'm just saying.
I'm sorry.
This I think is worded much more and it has to be for Sensible to be in business, right? But it's not like a light drizzle of rain for 3 hours. It has to be a significant downpour, I think. Yeah. And we'll ask, but payout size.
I think the fact that the CampSpot and KOA have added this, because it's been around for a little while now, I think that probably goes to, shows that it's got to be bringing value to the customer. They wouldn't be offering it, and to their owners, right? I'm sure there's plenty of owners and operators that hate it, don't want to use it, but you get that with anything. But yeah, I would encourage people to look into it for sure.
Payout size and frequency up to 100% of the average nightly rate for each day that breaches the threshold for each day. So you can't even get your whole trip. Like it's got to, like that would have to be like, if you're a weekend, it would have to pour like Saturday and Sunday or Friday and Saturday and Sunday.
Yep. Yeah. You're only getting covered for the portion of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it rains.
I wonder how they handle that with a check-in on Friday at like 4 o'clock. That would mean it would have to rain like specifically between 2000 hours, which is like I'd have to do that 3 hours of downpour before 8 o'clock. Right. So that's even more like, this is like the insurance game. Like good for them.
Yeah.
This is a good, it's probably a really good business. Cost to camper, price dynamically, sensible targets 5 to 10% of the booking value, lower in arid areas. Payment mechanics, SMS and email sent, 7 to 9 o'clock local with a payout link, PayPal or ACH. Funds arrive in 3 to 5 bank days. Claims paperwork none, parametric, automatic. Who pays liability? Sensible pays the reimbursement. Campground keeps its booking revenue. It's parametric, not insurance. Sensible looks only at NOAA's gridded forecast for that exact latitude and longitude each morning, which is really interesting because the weather forecast is like broad that you see on TV, right? Like we know this in Calgary because it's such a big city with the mountains on one side and kind of the prairies on the other side. And like you can say rain in Calgary, like we're kind of a dry area anyway, but it will only rain like in the northeast corner of the city and nowhere near a campground, even though the TV was like rain today. So if they're doing latitude and longitude, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's got to be hyper local.
As soon as the forecasted hours exceed the custom threshold, the payout fires. Thresholds are tuned by risk. Dry climate, wet climate. May require 3+ hours. Rain rate cutoff. Heat coverage is key. Multiple daily payouts are possible. Revenue share. Do they automatically get reimbursed? Or do they have to claim it?
Great question.
They must have to claim it. There's no way. Like, why would you do that as sensible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Revenue share. Get a quarterly revenue credit for every guarantee sold. Nothing leaves the park's cash drawers. Guest UX. Practical example. Bottom line. Okay. How much is 0.06 inches of rain seems like baby shit? See what that says.
I don't think you need O3 for that. I think you could have backed it off to.
Oh, well, sorry. I do that sometimes. Like I found myself.
Oh, you said doo-doo after you type baby shit. Look at that. You just worked that right in there. I caught that.
Somebody's got a potty mind.
Caught that.
All right. Scott, you could have used it anyways right there. Saying.
Yeah, probably.
There's times where it's deserved that you
I went a little outside.
I'm trying to wean myself off it, and it's a struggle.
It's so necessary. It
isn't baby. It is necessary sometimes, though. 0.6 inches equals 1.5 millimeters. Picture a U.S. nickel lying flat. The water layer is roughly that thick across every exposed surface. Meteorologists call 0.06 inches per hour light rain, but it's well above a mist or drizzle, which is 0.01 inches per hour. It's enough that you'll see continuous drops, need windshield wipers on low, and your campfires going out.
Soft.
Volume.
We're soft.
Soft.
Yeah.
They're just not building a big enough damn fire.
Which is why it can't be automatic then. Volume over space, 10 by 10 foot pop-up tent, 100 square foot. Water per hour would be 3.7 gallons per hour inside of your pop-up tent. 3.7 gallons. Typical RV pad and picnic zone would be 37 gallons of water. So that's a little bit more, right? Rule of thumb, 1 inch.
What were you going to say, Scott? You were going to throw truth on him.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't even wear a rain jacket for that.
That's right.
Like, you don't even need
I wouldn't either. I frequently will
that.
go out in the rain and get wet. But like I have a waterproof jacket and all that kind of stuff too. Waterproof, windproof, right? But
so another thing, if you guys don't mind, that I'd like to just touch on to before we go, it's going to be getting off of the sensible weather, but for folks out there that might be watching that are owner operators, or even if you got a small system, make sure you've got some kind of heat safety action plan in place. I mean, granted, you should have an emergency action plan that covers all sorts of stuff, right? But and typically for that soft kind of rain like that, you don't need one. I guess you could get your staff galoshes and a yellow slicker or something if you really wanted to, but they're going to be fine. But for the heat, like we were talking about earlier, have some stuff in place. Get messaging out to your campers of it sounds silly because if you've got this stuff, we've had 2.5 days of it here. You see it all over TV and you hear it on the radio, but some people don't. And some people don't know what to look for with heat stroke and heat exhaustion. And particularly, we had problems in our park and in other folks that I knew that owned parks at the time. The biggest issues we had were with, of course, kids, because they don't pay attention to anything. They're just playing, and pets. We had a lot of people whose pets, they would have to go home because of their pets or take them to the vet because they weren't paying attention to the signs of,
Pause
heat
on the
stroke or
asphalt.
exhaustion. What's that?
Pause on the asphalt.
Yeah, well, we weren't bougie. We didn't have any asphalt, but gums that weren't pink and excessive panting and lethargy. And some folks just think, oh, it's hot. Barney's going to be fine. He's maybe not. You really should have some good messaging out to your guests about what to watch for, both for them, their kids, their pets, and then some SOPs in place for your employees, because
here you go. If you want to take some bullet points from it, it's right in front of you.
You get a lot of people. Okay, you've got some. So, and I put my old one. I found it, downloaded it, and put it back through it. And there were a couple of things that that GPT pulled out that I thought were pretty cool. One was, now I can't find it. So like, silly things. It sounds silly, but giving kids popsicles in the middle of the day if you see them out playing around. Making sure that they're checking in at their campsites. Buddy system was something that we had always for the people that were working. Like we would have no non-essential work between noon and 4 or 1 and 5, whatever the hottest hours of the days were going to be. No non-essential outdoor work at all. I'd send people, if I had work campers, they'd go back to their trailer and just be on call. We kept them inside as often as possible. But you need a buddy system because, at least in my experience, 9 times out of 10, the employees were not coming to me and saying, I feel nauseous, I feel a little out of it. They were just trying to get stuff knocked out and get through their day and then maybe get to a break. So we had mandatory 15-minute breaks in every 1-hour shift if they had to be out. If somebody was going to be in a barn, even if they had, we'd have big coolers of electrolyte drink that they could come and get, and inside, of course. But set up a buddy system, because there's always going to be 1 or 2 people on your staff that are just going to refuse it. I don't need to drink that. I'm fine out in the heat. I'm covered up. The sun's not on me. You're probably not. And those 15-minute breaks every hour, absolutely mandatory. And so is the buddy system. Brian's got some really good stuff here on the screen too, but just make sure you have a plan built around this. You want to take care of your employees, even the ones that are knuckleheads. There's always a few of them too, but you don't want them out there overheating.
Yeah, there's some things here like push an SMS and app banner when the heat index is 90 to 102. High heat today, hydration stations at bathhouse and pool deck. Yep. Schedule staff for hourly water runs, heat index greater than 103 Fahrenheit. Close non-shaded playground, cancel noon activities. Open climate-controlled rec hall as cooling center, cots, fans, and ice. Log guest checks every 2 hours for elderly and pets. Lightning or severe storm. Subscribe to weather alerts on an NOAA radio and phone app. Action 30-30 rule, suspend outdoor activity when thunder heard. Shelters, solid buildings. Heavy rain and flash flood is 0.5 inches in an hour. So I guess that's our answer. Like, stop canceling. What are you doing? So, well, making the campground money is the answer. So, that's fine. Prep, clear culvert grates, position sandbags at cabin rows. Like, again, like if you're in an area, this is the idea. Yeah. If you're in a flood-prone area, if you're near a river bank, if you are in a frequent area that is exposed to hurricanes by the coast or swells of water, or like, did you guys see the terrible thing that happened in Lake Tahoe? Oh yeah, like Lake Tahoe had like this wind swell that like drew up 8-foot waves in seconds, capsized a boat, killed 5 people. capsized a bunch of other boats in the marina or something. Yeah, it's terrible. That happened like last week, I think. But if you know you're in one of those positions, then just like we've talked about buyer personas and things that apply to you, this applies to you, then do the heavy rain and flash flood. If you're not in one of those places, like have a plan, but it's like lower on your list. You don't need to do all the things like have sandbags in a shed ready and stuff like that, right? Wildfire and smoke. Again, if you're in a wildfire or smoky area, right? Like a lot of us are up here in Canada recently. Tornado or high wind if you're in a tornado area. Guest staff and messaging kit. Pre-write, paste into PMS or SMS tool now. Heat advisories, lightning holds, flash flood watch, mandatory evacuations, gear and infrastructure.
I'll add one more thing to this. This type of weather, the heat specifically, anybody who already owns is watching this knows this. This is going to show you where every weak spot in your electrical infrastructure is, where every weak breaker is at a site. You are going to have people losing power because they're trying to run an RV air conditioner and they're trying to keep it 68, 69, 70 degrees inside an RV when it's 104 outside. And if you talk to a manufacturer or someone who services RVs, they will tell you that that thing is made to maybe make a 10 to 15 degree dent in the temperature. And when you tell that to your customer, take a step back because they might swing at you when you try to tell them that it's 104 outside. The best you're going to be able to do inside your RV is, 90.
Yeah.
That's not great, but that's what they're made for. You are going to see your electrical infrastructure be tested. It's going to show you where the weak spots are, which is great. You can document them and work on them. But at that time, you've got big problems on your hands because you have people that are potentially in a position where they could be unsafe, right? Depending on their age or their health. If they can't keep their RV cool, maybe they've got to go home. Boy, that refund talk is coming really fast. And that should be the least of your concerns, of course. Your customer experience and your safety should be top of mind. But it can lead to some really tense situations. People are already, it's 104. Nobody's in a good mood. And then the power keeps going out and they can't keep their AC on. And your answer is, you got to, not make it so cool inside. What the hell kind of answer is that? So be prepared for those conversations, and boy, have a bucket full of 50 amp breakers and 30 amp breakers and be ready to run around changing them, because that's coming. Yeah, done that plenty of times.
Well, I think this is important too, what I just asked, right? Like, what if I just don't do it? What if I don't have a campground liability waiver? What if I don't plan for disaster? What if I do, right? Skip the plan and you're gambling with lives, 7-figure lawsuits, regulatory fines, exploding insurance costs, and a social media flameout that can kill next season's bookings before Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Here's what's actually happened to other operators who said meh to preparedness and what it cost. People get hurt or die equals wrongful death suits. 7-year-old drowned at an Ashland, New Hampshire campground. Owners were sued in federal court. 2 Utah campers were killed in lightning. Families sued the camp operator for negligence. Campfire in California. Evacuation orders bungled. 85 fatalities. Wonder where that was. Student heat stroke case settled for $40 million for extreme heat. Regulators and insurance will hammer you. And you can see some of this stuff if you go, like, I'm not going to read everything.
But there's that top one's really important to people because a lot of people think that they have, I had a lot of my park operations just in my head. I knew where the water lines, well, they're here and they're there and they're under that guy's shed and they're.
Yeah, that doesn't count in court.
It does not. It does not. And so when it comes time for an EAP, put something on paper. If it's super basic, it's better than nothing, but have something decent on paper. Let it be your living, breathing document. Grow it every year, and every time you have to use it, and every time you talk to somebody that gives you a good idea, run it through ChatGPT a couple times a year, see if you can continue to improve it, and actually make sure it works. Practice it with your staff. We had trailers. We had a trailer fire one time, burned 2 trailers to the ground. We had heart attacks, and just over time, all this stuff's going to happen. Because of the EAP, everything went really smoothly because we practiced it. You want that to happen. It's another one of those things. It's like insurance. You feel like you're never going to use it, but damn, when you do, you want it to be there and you want it to work well.
Yeah, I mean, what was your average profit margin if you're willing to share at your campground? Pick a year, Greg.
Oh, we had like percentage.
Dollar amount, if you don't mind.
Oh, my dad would kill me. I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do that.
What do you
Yeah,
think the average net profit amount is for a typical campground then?
that's way too. Parks. Let's talk percentage. Average is somewhere between your net operating income is typically like 50% is the middle of the road.
Okay,
Sometimes
the
it's
reason
lower,
I'm
like
asking is look
40%.
at number 2 here, right? Judgments and settlements. Recent verdicts run from $1 million to $40 million per incident.
Yeah, right. And that's to have a $1 million NOI, you've got to have a $2.5 million gross income. That's a really nice park. That park's making a lot of money. I would venture to guess that not even half the parks in the country hit that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that goes wrong.
Yep.
And then your insurance hikes and your lost revenue potential and your recovery costs, paying staff OT, equipment replacement, site repairs, all uninsured if the carrier walks.
Yeah.
Reputational craters, but I'll just wing it without a plan. You're improvising under sirens. And you guys can just kind of see this on the video. If you're listening on the podcast, just come. Concrete downside in dollars and lives. Bottom line, saying fuck it just doesn't flirt with a little inconvenience. It invites bankruptcy, jail-worthy negligence charges, and a permanent stain of guests dying on your watch. Boy, that's quite direct and to the point.
It's pretty stark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the end of your business. It's the end of your business. So everything you've worked for is gone in one instant because you didn't want to have any AP. And I would venture to guess that most parks do, but for anybody listening who doesn't, or maybe hasn't had it out for a while, or maybe doesn't practice it a couple of times a year.
Do you think that do you really think that most parks do? I'm not questioning you. I'm just curious.
I would imagine they do.
I just look at it from my standpoint of marketing, which is obviously not anywhere close to as important as having this in place to save lives, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But I look at it for all the people who know nothing about marketing and don't even build a good website.
Well, okay. So let's see that. Let me revise my answer. Do most have it down on paper? And is it smooth? Is it practiced? No, I would venture to say that most don't.
Which means it's worthless in court.
But most, you're correct. If you're going to go that, in court, yes. But I would venture to guess that most have a plan in place. But you got to keep in mind that I think, Scott, did you throw a number at this a couple of weeks ago? Something like 78%, 78% of campgrounds are still like mom and pop owned entities.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of them out there that are running like a lot of my operation was, right? When somebody'd say, how do we fix this? How does this work? I'd have to go, oh, that's in dad's head. He's over there. Go get him. That's in mom's head. Oh, that one's in my head. Okay, come on. I am the manual here. Let's go over there and I'll fix it. It doesn't work. Like you said, it's not going to hold up in court. Doesn't mean they can't execute it safely and efficiently, right? And make it work and keep their guests safe. But the point is, when that off season comes around, or the shoulder season, or whenever you do have the time, get it on paper. You're going to want that to back you up, because it only takes once. It may never happen, but boy, if it does one time, yuck.
That's why I can't own a campground. I'm not brave enough. I'm dead.
Yeah, you don't have to be brave. You just have to be a little crazy.
Like, I mean, I'm really like, I have a lot of respect for people who run campgrounds and all that stuff and expose themselves to all those things. It's not for me. Like, I have my own like appetite for risk, and it's very, very, very high. Just not that kind of risk, right? Because I don't enjoy doing all that stuff. But that's me.
Yeah, it's not the fun side of the business by any means. It's all that necessary stuff that's kind of icky, because it makes you think about these type of incidents, and nobody who wants to think about what happens if we have a flash flood, or a tornado comes through and we got people trapped under trees or so. Nobody wants to think about it, but you need to before it happens, so you can be prepared.
Yeah,
and I wasn't even a Boy Scout. See that? I just threw that in. I wasn't even.
Like, they're talking about like building. We were talking to the president of the city council, I think, in Churchill, and there's no roads that go to Churchill. Like, you either get in on a plane or you go in on the train, right? You cannot drive to Churchill. But they've been talking about like putting military up there as Canada looks to like expand the presence in the Arctic and stuff. They had military back there dozens of years ago, right? But at that point, they might build a road. If they build a road, then there's more tourism, right? And then people can come up there and go camping. What do you think insurance covers about like a polar bear ripping away the side of your RV? It would be an interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would go camping there.
Yeah, I don't know that I would even do it in an RV because that's not. People think hard side accommodation.
No, not with a polar bear.
Just go right through it. Yeah, if you smell good enough, it's coming in. There's nothing you can do to stop those things.
Yeah, like a brown bear is like not getting into an RV unless you leave the door open.
That's a big strong animal. I don't know.
Well, black bear, sorry, is what I mean.
Yeah, black bear is probably going to get out of there. They're overgrown raccoons. We're back to raccoons. Which, by the way, did you know? I'm surprised Bob hasn't brought this up. Their Latin name is Procyon loader, which translates to the washer, because they typically put their food in water first and wash it up before they eat it.
Did you actually know that?
I did. Yeah, that's one of the few. I don't know a lot of Latin names, but I know raccoon and skunk and a few other ones. But yeah, Procyon loader.
How did you manage to acquire this knowledge?
Dude, nerd brain. You just soak it up. It's just so cool. Tell me that's not cool. Procyon loader. Cool. Tell me that doesn't sound like a metal thrash band. Like we're going to see Procyon loader tonight. Just
I love learning all this little shit, man. Like I was telling you guys about the polar bears. Like these fucking things are smart, man. Like they're telling me about the one that sits on the rock and waits all day, and it will do this. Like you'll see these in November. They'll line up against the beach, and they'll just sit there staring for hours and days out, waiting for the ice to form, so they can go out for the winter, and then they can get on the ice and kill the seals, and do everything else they do for the whole winter, right? So they're very patient people, or bears. But like there was one that figured out how to like sit on a giant rock, and like knew the tide came in and out twice a day, figured it out, recognized that when the water and tide came in, that the belugas came closer to shore, and then figured out that if I sit on this rock, the water's deep enough that the belugas will come around me once in a while, and then I can jump on the back of a baby beluga and just kill it, and then there's my meal. And then it not only did that, not only figured that out, it taught 40 other bears how to do this. Right? So like,
yeah, man.
The amount of respect I think we have for animals in general is very ridiculously underappreciated.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And on that note,
know that birds are really smart, except for the ptarmigan.
Ptarmigan are really smart. They're just really generous.
No, and like that, like everybody told us this, and like you got to do your research on this. ChatGPT this, man.
No, I know they're not. It's not that they're stupid. They're just really, really indifferent to people's presence. They'll bump a little ways, and then they'll sit there and just look at you.
Yeah, or like indigenous boat. We had a lot of indigenous people who were giving us on tours. But there was one who was taking us on the boat for the belugas the last day, and he was like, we were talking about birds, and he's like, yeah, the birds are really smart. They're like, I think I told you this. Like the Arctic terns will follow the beluga whales, and they'll look at the reflection off the back, and they'll die for the food because that's what the belugas eat or whatever. And I was like, yeah, except for the ptarmigans. Like the guy Leroy told us that these guys are dumb. And he's like, yeah, there's something rotten in their brains or something like that. Like you can basically just go up and just hunt with your hands and get a ptarmigan and just kill it, and then get another one and get another one and get another one. So
yeah, they didn't evolve far enough. Yeah, for sure. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to jump, gentlemen, and I'm sorry to have monopolized so much of the start of the show, Scott. I apologize. I feel like
this was in your wheelhouse. That's good.
Well, glad you guys wanted to cover this.
Yeah, go away now. We're going to talk about data. And
I'm going away. Enjoy. And I'm going to tune back in for the rest of this because I know nothing about what's going on with the. I can't believe they're finally making their way into reservation systems. That is a bit concerning, isn't it?
Yeah.
For our industry. So I'll tune back in. You guys enjoy the rest of the show.
See you, man.
All right, great.
So before we pivot to credit card fraud, though, I want to talk. Do you have any data on this, Scott, about like studies or information you have on impact of how often does this happen? When does it happen? Where does it happen? Anything?
I don't. It's not something that we've looked into just because it hasn't been that top of mind over the years. But I've actually been hearing about it myself now. So I probably should start looking at it and seeing how common it really is, because when I was down in Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago, there was talk about fraud at the dealerships.
Well, the credit card fraud, right? So I guess I'm asking before we flip to the credit card fraud, data on like fires, natural disasters, emergency prep, things like that.
Oh, on that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No,
The
it's okay.
No, what you can count on is if there's we'll call severe weather, probably a little bit more severe than those standards that came up earlier. But if there are weather conditions, and if there's again, it could be wildfire smoke or whatever, that you can pretty much count on your business dropping about 20% when that's going on. So you're going to have about 20% cancellations or no shows based on that, which may or may not sound like a lot to people. I think it's a lot,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the golden rule. A lot of people, you're going to have a decent number of people, probably 30% are going to reschedule, though, but you do lose some business from it. And again, that's probably about 20%.
Okay. Anything else to add before we switch gears?
Nope. I think, other than, as we always say, get creative, figure it out, do your due diligence.
Which is even easier than now if you just use ChatGPT.
It really is.
Please, for all the people who are watching who still haven't used it, despite our repeated begging and pleading and action planning. All right, so credit card fraud. So this is why, and I want you to talk about what the meeting, like what you can say about what came up in the meeting and other things you've heard, right? Anecdotal evidence. But like here's like it came across my desk because, and everything is intentionally vague here. And it's when I say this, it is by no means the reservation software's fault that this stuff is happening, right? And again, we're not going to name names at all. But like, I don't want anybody to leave this show and say like, oh, my reservation system might not be doing the best like, I guess that's possible that they might not be doing the best they could. But in this specific case, like this reservation system was really proactive, was on it, had an action plan, and still like suffered detrimental attacks to certain things that were happening. And like, this is, I think we looked this up. I'm actually going to find this email here while I talk. But so I can give a couple examples of how big this is happening because I found articles. I did some research on it after it happened. But like what basically was happening to this reservation system, and it was a provider in our industry, like basically these hackers will do one of two things. Through my research, I learned this. They will either steal massive lists of existing credit cards to hack or whatever else, right? Or they'll buy a list from somebody on the dark web or whatever else. So they have tens of thousands of different potential credit cards, and then they will pick a place. Now that could be a campground reservation system. It could be a hotel reservation system. It could be any kind of little checkout form that you offer on your website to sell goods in a store or whatever else, right? They'll just pick something that's vulnerable. And vulnerable is like a broad word. Like there are very, very few people. Like I think I will tell you what we do for our customers later for website design, but I'm pretty sure that we are the only company who touches anything with website security and pays attention to it for people. So I think generally, unless you're part of a big hotel chain like a Marriott or Hilton or something like that, and you're in the tourism business, I think generally you're very, very vulnerable to this, and they just look for people who don't have the really good security set up. And then they will basically set up a script or think of it like an AI, a robot, an automatic thing. This is not people manually doing this, right? And they will literally run through that list of credit cards and they will go to your checkout page and they will pop in a credit card and they will and then they will hit submit and see if it works. And they're not trying to make a reservation system, a reservation at your campground. This isn't about fraud at your campground. This is about trying to figure out if that credit card number is actually valid and then to use it somewhere else. And they will do this tens of thousands of times an hour, thousands, hundreds or thousands of times a minute. And it will completely overwhelm, if you're not prepared, the system. It's called a brute force attack. And it will take down your reservation system. If they do this to like your checkout or the reservation software's provider, and they're not prepared to do this and they don't handle it quickly enough, what will happen is your bank will shut down your credit card processing because of the fraud that's coming through your specific integration with a Stripe or your Visa or MasterCard or whatever else, right? And then you can't take any payments until you pass like a checklist of things that they say you must now prepare for. Well, if that's on the reservation system side, like that's a little bit beyond your control. And if it's on your side, like this is a lot of technical stuff that you got to set up that you're just not going to be doing overnight. So just like a disaster, once it happens, like you're kind of fucked. But this is happening quite a lot. And people need to be aware of how often this stuff is happening. I got distracted from checking on my emails. But that's one example, right? Of everything. And we're seeing this happen across all kinds of different attack, like they call attack vectors maybe or something. I don't know. But we're seeing this happen in brute force. We're seeing people like constantly forever. People have been trying to get into WordPress and hack passwords and do it the same way. And so they either have those lists or what's happening now. And I have this email somewhere that I sent to somebody, the campground who was impacted by this, who we also will not name. But let's see, I got to go find these lists. But what's happening now is something called enumeration, which is, hold on. I don't know. Anyway, enumeration, like I'll find an article about it in a second. There we go. Is the ability for like them to take a list of card addresses and like try to guess numbers that work, right? So I got these numbers. So these articles, I'm pulling them up right now. Hold on. And then we'll share it. And it's basically like instead of stealing the card address, so you can go ahead and I will share this. So instead of stealing the card address, they're just basically going and trying to guess card numbers. And they're doing this at like such a crazy rate of like card guesses. Like, like for example, like, well, I don't know this, but I'm guessing like every Visa card I've had starts with like 44 something. I don't know if they're all the same, right? But there's a pattern to all these numbers. MasterCard starts, I think, with a 5 or something, right? And there's only so many number combinations. And if you use a robot that has enough servers and enough power, you can just go boop, 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 and try to guess. And so they'll hammer these reservation systems nonstop trying to guess that stuff. And it's not exclusive to campgrounds. There's nothing that these reservation systems, I don't want to say that because there's nothing they're doing to invite the attacks. But there's a lot they're doing that they probably don't know that they could be doing to protect themselves with it. And it's kind of one of those things like I used an example in this case of an antivirus program. For the antivirus software in your computer, unless you're using a good one like I use Bitdefender, by the way. But unless you're using something like that, or there are a couple other companies, right? But it's kind of those. Remember, you had to download the latest list of antivirus things or whatever for Norton, and like the only way that it protected you is somebody else had to get hacked first. That's not a good plan, right? And so but now with AI and all the stuff that's happening with AI, and we'll talk a little bit about security and how to better protect yourself generally in the future, both on websites and on your computer in a few minutes when we get past this. But like this is moving too fast. And so here's a couple articles. Like, again, I didn't know this before it happens. This is stuff that I started educating myself on. So this is inside the AI arms race between fraudsters and Visa. So this is a Forbes article about Visa. And it was written on March 30th, 2025. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but for those on the podcast, for Visa and rival MasterCard, fighting the explosion of fraud attempts is both a big expense and an opportunity for profit. Visa's Cyber Fusion Center in Ashburn, Virginia, is so secure that Michael Jabara, the San Francisco-based global head of fraud services for the credit card network, has trouble getting into its double set of doors. Inside the center, analysts monitor a large screen displaying a variety of data, reflecting how smoothly Visa's deluge of transactions, some $310 billion worth, $15.9 trillion in 2024, are being processed worldwide and where suspicious activity is high. Let's see, there's a couple numbers in here that were interesting to me. Let's see. Visa has more than 1,000 employees worldwide dedicated to risk and security, says it has invested $11 billion in anti-fraud technology over the last 5 years alone. Both fraud and fraud fighting are big businesses, with artificial intelligence increasingly driving growth on both sides. Visa reported an 85% during Cyber Monday last November. So this is November of 2024. Visa reported an 85% year-over-year increase in fraud attempts and a stunning 200% increase for the first official weekend of holiday shopping. Increases it attributes in large part to AI. The word attempts is key since most are thwarted, points out Steve Yin, global head of fraud at TransUnion. The TransUnion estimates that 5.2% of all attempted digital transactions in the first half of 2024 involved suspected fraud. Juniper Research estimates that e-commerce fraudsters worldwide grabbed $44 billion in 2024 and will siphon off $107 billion a year by 2029 for a 19.5% compound annual growth rate. On the fraudster side, AI helps them learn more, launch more sophisticated attacks in a variety of ways. Among other things, they can impersonate people through deep fakes. We've talked about this with AI before, right? AI video, AI audio, I've cloned my voice, like all that kind of stuff. Launch mass attacks to find vulnerabilities in systems, use bots to navigate websites and extract information, and generate more believable emails that lead people to give up sensitive information. Let's see. Companies use different anti-fraud, credit card network. Okay, so that's that. And then I think this is a Visa, a payment ecosystem report by Visa Payment Ecosystem Risk and Control, biannual threats report, spring of 2025. And I think this is the one that had, okay, this is enumeration. Enumeration attacks, this is making up the credit card numbers, right? Remain a popular vector for threat actors to validate and compromise payment credentials, resulting in around $1.1 billion in follow-on fraud in a one-year period. Over the past 6 months, so this is a spring of 2025 article, okay, so let's assume March. There were hundreds of millions of suspected attack transactions, representing 22% increase from the prior 6-month period. Now that's okay, like that was March. 3 months later, assuming like best case scenario, we're 11% higher now. So we're at 33%, 9 months over whatever, probably, in a best case scenario. And then let's see, scam activity in the last 12 months, Visa's perk detected US $357 million in fraud associated with scams and over 20,000 merchants involved in scamming. Visa's PERC, which is, do we get a definition of what perk is somewhere up here? I don't know. Payment Ecosystem Risk and Control, which scans web pages of e-commerce merchants for any known digital skimming malware or malicious code and alerts the impacted merchant or acquirer of the potential compromise, identified a 7% increase in websites identified as infected. From July to December 2024, they identified ransomware and data breach attacks that were opportunistic and exfiltrating data, with several thousand ransomware and data breach incidents tracked by them over the past 6 months, a 51% increase from the prior 6-month period. So again, like tack another 25% on. Best case, like worst case or best case scenario, right? Like this is, but it's increasing exponentially, is the idea that like you guys need to understand. Payment threats landscape, enumeration, identification of website. Okay, so there's that. Let's read. I don't know. I can't remember. This is a couple weeks ago what we had. This is the 2025 Advanced Persistent Bots reports. I don't know if there's anything good in here. Looking at all HTTP requests across all sectors and platforms, we found an average of 10.2%, or 21.22 billion, were bots and other forms of automation. Not all of it was entirely malicious. It just talks about bots. We can share these links maybe a little bit later with people somehow. But like credential stuffing, logging into, like trying to guess your airline loyalty points and steal those. Like this is everywhere, right? And then more, the rise of AI-powered bots and payment fraud and how fintechs can protect themselves. These are only articles that I found in early 2025, right? Like this has been going on for a long time. The problem is that AI is getting so big and so massive and so easy to use by somebody who doesn't have technical knowledge that this stuff can be deployed by somebody in their garage who just like has learned about this stuff for a week now. And your website can easily be attacked. If they get your login and password to your website, they can change information, but they can also use it to install malicious code and then take control of your website if you don't have good enough security and use that to perform attacks on other websites. And I do intentionally mean to scare you guys. Not that like this is happening to your website right now, but like this has to be something you guys have to pay attention to, because boy, can it dramatically increase or impact your business quite a bit. So synthetic identity fraud losses exceeded $35 billion in 2023. And again, like, so what do you think of this data so far, Scott?
It's jarring. It's sobering, whatever word you want to use. It's I mean, you kind of get an inkling that some of this stuff is going on, but the scale of it, I think, is
yeah. And it's only going to increase so rapidly. Like you saw that, like some of the numbers, 30 or 20 some percent over the last 6 months. And this is not seasonality in campgrounds, right? They don't take a winter and a summer. 22%, 51% for whatever I can't remember what the other number was, but like massive number increases that are only exponentially going to increase. And these tools are much easier to use and much easier to access, as we've talked about. Like you have to be able to pay attention to this stuff. So I want to go here without me saying anything. And I want to say, like, what are the dangers of hackers gaining access to my website, online reservation system, or something similar to use in hacking, attacks, control of my website or hosting, enumeration, etc. I am a beginner, and how do you spell beginner? Why can I not spell beginner?
BEGINNER.
Okay. It was vacation mode, so I'm a beginner and know nothing. Explain it like a 10th grader in great detail. All potential big worries. All right, so we'll see what that says in a second. Like but the most serious one is your payment processor, right? And I don't know. I know the reservation system that we dealt with was like on top of it, right? Now in the future, they will be able to prevent the same type of attack that happened. But they were already doing great things with security, right? I have to assume that the larger reservation companies in our industry are likely doing similar things as that company, right? Because they have the resources. I would assume, I do not know. For the smaller reservation companies out there, I would almost be willing to guarantee they have very little security in place. They have some, and for sure there are exceptions to the rule, but I don't know, like, how do we approach that situation? And maybe it's not our job, maybe it's the campground owner's job, right? But surely there must be some way to if you're a reservation system, you want to maybe use this as a selling point. If you're doing it right, as this one is, that was attacked, and even they were still attacked, right? So it's going to happen. But I don't know, like, how do you as a campground owner approach a reservation system and say, like, hey, I'm concerned about hacking and security, and because the generic customer support representative is just going to be like, yeah, we're secure, and not really give you an answer because they don't know. So I don't know how to begin to get this addressed with reservation systems. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's going to have to be out of fear. I mean, honestly, that the fear of loss, the fear of lawsuits, the fear of just going out of business, because one incident could damage your reputation forever. Depends on the severity of it, obviously, but to me is other than that, and again, you touched on it a little bit. It's a competitive advantage as well to be able to say that and to put the guest's mind at ease, that person making the reservation. But the campground owners and operators are the ones that really need to have that reassurance. And when they're making that decision on which platform to choose, this over time, if it isn't already, it is going to be a topic of discussion. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah, but it has to be driven by the campground owners, I think, in some capacity. Sorry, I was burping because of the beer, so I'd turn my mic away. Should I have admitted that? Probably not. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. No, it does. I mean, essentially, in this case, they're kind of the end user. So yeah.
And our goal here is not to call out any reservation systems, or we'd be doing that. Like, these reservation providers, generally speaking, are not intentionally doing, most of them are not intentionally doing anything wrong. 99% of them, right? Just saying the caveat, because there might be one who's like, we're just going to cheap out. Like, I think they don't know what they don't know, because you can't know everything. I knew security was important. We already had security in place for our clients for years. I didn't know all the extra steps that we could easily have taken with our existing infrastructure that was in place for security that we now have. And some of the extra things that we've added, right? Which we'll talk about in a few. But you need to have a conversation with them. And you need to get a hold of somebody who's of technical skill and knowledge enough to be able to actually, like, and again, we talk about marketing, right? We talked about marketing on Fireside Chats earlier, like knowing 5% of what enough to be dangerous. Go to ChatGPT and say, I'm concerned that my reservation system might not have adequate protection in place to protect me against enumeration or brute force attacks or whatever else. I would like to get a hold of them, but I know I'm going to talk to a customer service rep who is great and wonderful and has my best interests at heart, but doesn't know what I'm talking about, just like I don't know what I'm talking about. So what questions do I need to ask to help her open up a ticket to get to the right person to make sure that I know this information? And then, like, ask those questions, right? Like, it has to start with a conversation. And it's going to be awkward, but like, yeah, I think this ends up being a competitive advantage, but like, you have to pay attention to this. So I know, Jessica, you just turned it off, but go back to my screen. We're going to walk through this in a second. So here's the short version. When a hacker slips into your website or reservation system, they can turn it into their personal Swiss Army knife. Below is every major oh no scenario broken down so a 10th grader or a frazzled campground owner can see the stakes. One is they steal customer data. What happens? Names, emails, phone numbers, even full credit card details pour out the back door. Real world hits. Ticketmaster's booking platform leak. Not a small company. Have lots and lots and lots of people paying attention to this probably. Exposed credit card numbers and contact info. Hotel chains have paid 6-figure fines for similar spills. Why you care? Angry guests, chargebacks, and privacy regulators. GDPR, PCI, DSS can hammer you with lawsuits and fines. They lock everything with ransomware. Hackers can encrypt your files, then demand ransom. Even if you pay, recovery usually drags on for 21 days and costs 10 times the ransom. This is very big. Ransomware is very, very big. And it's only going to get bigger because it's only going to get easier for you to use an AI tool and do this and not have knowledge about it. All it takes is one guy, right? Like, and again, I know there's a balance here between scaring people and not scaring people. And there's a wonderful man. Jessica was listening to the podcast earlier. There's a wonderful man who's known as the godfather of AI called Jeffrey Hinton, who has made it his mission in life to like scare people because like AI is coming and you need to pay attention in multiple different ways that we're not going to talk about today, whatever else, right? But you need to be a little bit scared. You need to understand what is coming, and you need to prepare yourself for it. And ransomware is a huge, huge thing, like that you just need to pay attention to. because it's happening everywhere. Why you care? No reservations, no revenue, plus the cost of rebuilding servers from scratch. They hijack your server for DDoS botnets. What happens? Your server becomes one of thousands flooding other sites with junk traffic. This is so easy to happen to you when you decide, shout out to our client who canceled on us 2 months ago to go to $13 a month GoDaddy hosting. Your server becomes one of thousands flooding other sites with junk traffic. If you are using cheap hosting, and by cheap hosting, I mean if it is costing you less than $50 a month, you are on what's called shared hosting. What that means is that, think of the computer in your office, right? Like obviously larger and more complex, whatever. There's a server sitting somewhere in the cloud. Like the cloud is not actually a cloud. The cloud beams your shit down into a data center with a physical computer, right? There's one of those sitting somewhere that you and tens of thousands of other websites are all sharing. If one of those other websites gets hacked, just one, and you're on shared hosting, they now have access to all of those websites that are on the hosted computer. So when you think you're saving money, good luck to you, is all I have to say, right? And that doesn't mean you need me. That doesn't mean you need me. But like, you have to pay attention to this stuff. There is a reason with everything in the world why something is cheaper. What are you willing to risk for your business just to save a few bucks is the question. Your host may pull the plug to stop the noise, taking your site down with it. They graffiti your homepage, defacement. What happens? Attackers replace your glamping photos with political rants, profanity, or hacked by Mr. Robot. I've actually seen this happen a couple years ago to a campground. Again, won't name it, but why you care? Guests think you're careless. Sponsors, partners, and Google lose trust. This is very easy to have happen where they don't graffiti, and maybe this is the next one. Cryptojacking scripts. So that's cryptojacking. We'll talk about that in a second. But this is very easy to do in the background. Like, they're not going to change the content of your gallery unless they're trying to go after you specifically to ruin your business. But they absolutely will log into your website, install a bunch of plugins and scripts, and then those scripts will install malicious code on the people who visit your website. And then you're impacting tens of thousands of people who are just coming to you for a camping experience, who now, because they're consumers and probably don't care too much about antivirus protection, or geeks like me, or aren't geeks like me, right? Now have a bunch of viruses and malware on their computer because you didn't pay attention to your website. Now, maybe that doesn't come back to you. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It's like website accessibility. Maybe you get sued. Maybe you don't. But I don't know. Like, isn't it the right thing to do? Like putting the water out for the dogs in 100-degree heat? Scott, agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, so they run cryptojacking scripts. Hidden code forces your server or visitors' browsers to mine crypto for the hacker, spiking CPU and electric bills. This is like Bitcoin, right? There's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down about what mining is. But many cryptocurrencies. And they just need computer power to do this. And so they'll install this on thousands of unaware computers. And so maybe your computer just starts running slow at your office and you have no idea why. Is it likely this? Probably not, but like, it could be. It's one of those reasons, right? Blast spam and phishing from your domain. Compromised email or hidden directories send junk campaigns or fake login pages. I've known multiple people in the campground industry, individual people who have had their email hacked, who have had their Facebook accounts hacked. Sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. Depends on what they want to do. They poison your SEO. What happens? They injected pages full of casino links or fake products, drag rankings into the gutter, and Google can blacklist you. Why you care? Organic traffic and bookings evaporate until you clean every infected file. Do you want to... One, how long is it going to take for you to even notice that? Right? The intent is for you not to notice it. And how many people like just outsource their web design to somebody Unless you ask them the question to check my site, because they don't have proactive scanning and all the things that we'll talk about that we do. Again, there are other good website design companies, right? But like I'm speaking from my experience. Like how long is it going to take you to notice this kind of stuff? And then how do you clean it? Because I guarantee you, like 75% of the website devs in the world, 75% of them have no idea how to actually clean a website of malware. Good luck. So then you're going to have to go research it and hire a company, and like maybe their hosting does it, maybe it doesn't, like, but it's going to be a big fee to clean that stuff up. They enumerate accounts and take them over. What happens? Subtle probing reveals which usernames exist in WordPress or Wix or Squarespace or whatever. Then password guessing or credential stuffing bags admin access, and they can do whatever they want. An attacker with your admin login can delete sites, refund bookings to stolen credit cards, or create new fake users. They pivot to the rest of your network. Once inside, crooks scan for other servers, databases, or cloud keys, turning one small hole into a full breach, common after WordPress plugin exploits. Even systems you thought were separate, email, payroll, cameras, can get owned. Legal, financial, and operational fallout. Downtime math. For a modest $10 million revenue business, each day offline averages $55,000 lost, not counting cleanup. Regulators. GDPR fines can hit 4% of global turnover. PCI violations mean higher card fees, or losing the ability to accept cards is all, like we talked about. Trust, guest cancel trips, partner pulls, ads, and online reviews erupt. Key takeaways. Patch and update everything. CMS plugins, reservation software weekly. If you don't know what I'm talking about, figure it out. Go to ChatGPT, go to Google, and learn it, and then call your website developer or design company or marketing agency or whoever you trust with your hosting, if you even have anybody, or ask GoDaddy if you don't and you do everything yourself, or Wix or Squarespace, and you like figure out what this stuff means. It's your job, right? Use strong, unique admin passwords and multi-factor authentication. How many people do this? Do you do it everywhere, Scott?
I do. I actually do. I did at first. I didn't like it. Now I'm like glad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are password management companies out there. We use 1Password at our agency, but there's things like LastPass, and like there are even cheaper ones are built into Google Chrome's browser, but I wouldn't use those for security. Like that will let you have one master password, and then they will autofill random, unique 20, 30 character passwords on every site. Multi-factor authentication. Like a lot of the stuff, again, I'm not trying to scare you guys, but like there's been so many reported attempts that were reported, of all the ones that were unreported too, of somebody just bribing an AT&T or Verizon employee for $150 to give them a clone of your SIM card that they can pop into their phone, and now they're you. And they can just go to your bank and here's your 2-factor authentication code. It's just going to text it to my number now instead of yours, and you will never know that it happened until you become a victim. This is very easy to do. So paranoid security here, right? What I do is I have everything go to a voice over IP number. I have like 5 of them bought from my business phone company, Dialpad or whatever, because there's no SIM card attached to a voice over IP number. Completely eliminates the risk. Maybe that's a little bit paranoid, right? But like, don't do text messaging. Do like the QR codes and the rotating numbers and all that kind of stuff. Backups off-site and test restores. Ransomware is powerless if you can nuke it and pave it. So if they take over ransomware, do you know what ransomware is, Scott?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to explain it as you understand it so that I'm not geek explaining it?
And I hope I'm right, but basically my understanding of ransomware is that they come in and basically take over your computer, your files, and hold them ransom like they would in a kidnapping, and then until you pay them. And
they lock everything down.
Right.
Well, if you've got off-site cloud backups for your website, and this is way more than your website. We're talking about your desktop computer with your QuickBooks and your payment processing and your check-in and your PMS software and everything that runs your entire business.
Yep.
And
I've
they'll
known
lock it
people
down.
that this has happened to at the very small business level, that it's happened to them and they've had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get their stuff back.
But if you're being proactive, which hopefully you are by watching the show, then you can install a piece of software on your computer that will back up your computer continuously to the cloud or off-site. And then when they message you and say, hey, I've put ransomware in your computer, you owe me $10,000 to unlock it. No, I'm just going to format my whole computer and reinstall from the backup I took an hour ago. And you're done. All about being proactive, right? There's a company this is the company I use. You want to share the screen real quick, Jessica? This is the company I use. It's called Acronis. There are many out here that exist, but I use Acronis. They have other things. They have one for home is the one I would use, right? For a small business, like there is businesses, but this really isn't necessary. And like unless you're in a big office with a network and a bunch of different computers tied to the same network and all that kind of stuff. So I would just use for home and like this backup or recovery, right? Like they do have cybersecurity antivirus built in here. Don't use it for that. That's not what they're known for. But use it to back up offsite to the cloud, and it's specifically for ransomware protection. And I think do they talk about ransomware in here? Okay, let's look. Acronis ransomware. All right, so here's business ransomware protection, but same kind of thing, right? Full suite of powerful reactive solutions, advanced threat detection, automatic backup, integrated data protection, et cetera, right? So Acronis, there's your solution for that. Or one of the solutions. Very easy to protect yourself from ransomware, but you've got to know all that stuff and have it exist, right? Install a web application firewall, or at least a security plugin to block bots and SQL injection. I'm going to say this, and it's going to be controversial, Scott. But well, maybe you won't probably think it's controversial because you might not understand it. But like, if you run a website, or you pay a company to run your website or a website dev, and you think your security is complete by installing a website plugin like WordFence, you are not protected anywhere close to how you think you are. Do you need a plugin? Not if you're on the correct website host and using the correct DNS protection web application firewall software. They should never, ever be able to touch your website to even attempt to get to the security plugin point of it. If they're already at your security plugin, you're already fucked. But the reason that they get to your security plugin and you need something like WordFence is because you have cheap hosting. And it's because your website dev is not paying attention to what they should be. That's why you need a security plugin. Sorry, guys. Like, that's what it is. So, like, it's better than nothing. Like, most clients who come to us don't have any website security at all. But if you're resting your laurels on that little website security plugin, and I'm not picking on WordFence, they're a great company. They offer a lot of good products, right? For sure, like, it's better than nothing. But, you know, and I think, what's another one? I used to be iThemes website security. Sophos has a website security plugin. I don't know. There's a couple other ones. Malcare, I think. But again, by the time they get to your security plugin, Defender Pro is another one. By the time they get there, you're toast already in most cases, and it's not protecting you from brute force attacks because it's not a web application firewall. It's not. A web application firewall is at your hosting level, right? And then so anyway, there's a lot of geeky talk. But anyway, encrypt traffic, HTTPS everywhere. I think most people do this. TLS 1.2 plus, nobody probably has any idea what this is. Transport layer security. I think most people by default on cheaper hosts especially use 1.1. Least privilege access, staff only get the permissions they need, nothing more. This is one of the big reasons, and some clients hate us for this, why we won't give admin access to websites. Like, we'll give them login access sometimes if they need to edit specific pages, but we won't give them admin access because it's a point of entry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just one more thing for us to watch out for, right? Monitor logs and alerts. You should have this automated. If you have a good host, you don't need to worry about a lot of this stuff. You do, like, you need to set it all up, right? But if you have a good host, if you have good things, and we'll talk about those steps that we're taking at least, have an incident response plan, who to call. Like, do you know who to call? Like, you're gonna call a website dev, and I'm not picking on anybody in our industry, like a website dev generally, and they're gonna be like, well, I don't actually develop your website. I outsource that to a person. So let me get a hold of that person, and then days later, right, you're gonna get an answer. And they're not gonna know anything about it, and they're gonna try to, well, we don't know, right? Again, there's a reason that things cost money. Choose where you want to expose your risk to and how you want to balance that saving money. Treat your site and booking system like a cash register at the front desk. Lock it, watch it, back it up. Never hand the keys to strangers. Thoughts on these things that you've learned, Scott?
That I do need to personally beef up my security, just for my own benefit, and it's one of those things where I know campground owners and people are busy. It can be overwhelming, but what this points to is kind of what the advice I try to give people all the time is: hire the experts. Make sure you hire competent people, hire experts to take care of this stuff for you, people who know about this, because it could ruin your business. I mean, not to be overly dramatic about it, but, and if nothing else, this could be really inconvenient for you for a while at a minimum. So to me, it's just like, find someone who knows this inside and out, hire them, pay them to do their job. It's a worthwhile investment.
All right, so I promised a stack that we do for our clients, right? I'm not going to give you everything because our competitors might be watching the show. I'm going to give you the basics of what you need to do, generally speaking. You need to have a good web application firewall in front of your website. There are two really popular ways to do this. The biggest one and easiest one is Cloudflare. The second one is a company, I think, called Sophos. And maybe I said Sonos when I was talking about the plugin, but I meant Sophos. So Sophos is this company right here. And they defeat cyber attacks with threats to the service. We used to use them years ago. The one that most people hear about now is Cloudflare. They are just a massive, massive publicly traded company that just do this shit for a living. It is their job to protect you, and everything they do is thought leadership. And so, like, again, if you don't know what DNS is, you should ask your website dev, and you should figure out what it's different than your hosting. It's different than your hosting. If you don't know where your DNS runs through, usually it's through your registrar. If you're doing it yourself, you're like a GoDaddy or something like that. But you should be using an external service like Cloudflare, especially if you're on shared hosting. But generally speaking, anyway, this helps you mitigate a ton of attacks if you set it up right. Like, and this isn't a WordPress plugin. This is before they even get to type in your domain name. Like when they're typing in your domain name and hit enter, the DNS is like the domain name system of the internet, domain name registry. It basically allows you to get to google.com instead of typing in 65.196.24. their IP address, right? It's like the postal address system of the internet. And they have web application firewalls. They have all kinds of security mechanisms. They're protecting against brute force, and like I could go on and on about all kinds of different attack vectors that Cloudflare will protect for you. That's your first line of defense, is that. And then your second line of defense is your hosting. Like, so what is your hosting doing for you? We host on Google Cloud. Google Cloud obviously has a lot of security built in by Google itself, but there are different layers of security that our chosen hosting company has that protects you against all the things too. And there's a whole team that manages our hosting. that aren't my employees, but are like in some ways a contractor, right? But like a hosting company that we hire, like we pay, I think $5,000 a month for our enterprise hosting that our clients sit on. Obviously not per client, right? But and if you're willing to pay for that good security, like you're isolated in almost like a container from everybody else. And so if one person gets hacked, they're never touching you. You're on your own dedicated container inside Google Cloud. There's so many things they have for security. So that's your second line of defense is hosting. You have to pay money for it. It's your whole business. Pay money for it. Like you don't have to pay $5,000 a month. But again, if you're less than $50 a month, you're in danger territory. And that was probably a number like after inflation 10 years ago. Like probably it's less than $100 a month now is what the real number is. And then your third line of defense is plugins. We do not use any security plugin for our clients. What we do use instead is basically an AI or machine learning. It is a plugin, but like it's not. And we basically, it's a community sourced WordPress effort that allows you to discover vulnerabilities in WordPress plugins in real time. This is another problem with a lot of website devs and hosts who don't pay attention to things is they don't update your plugins. This is the biggest attack vector in WordPress for unprotected people is your WordPress plugins. And even if you keep them up to date, there will be vulnerabilities that are discovered. Just like with your website, these are plugins with all their own codes and things that every time you install a plugin, you're opening up a different attack vector to your website. And so this is one of the extra steps that we took that we weren't doing before. We've installed software that basically like, in a way, crowdsources, like, has an attack ever been seen before? Let's scan your plugins. Let's do all the things. And then proactively, if something is discovered, we patch it. Automatically, the AI machine learning deploys a temporary patch that will protect you even if you never update the plugin in seconds. And so some of those things, right? Like you don't need another layer of like brute force attack protecting your website login if you have Cloudflare sitting on top of it to protect brute force from all the things. And your hosting protects it too. And you're blocking, right? So those are the three things I think that we do. And then taking that further to your security, right? We talked about Acronis. I use Bitdefender on my website for my antivirus. I should have affiliate links for this, Scott. I just use the consumer one, right? I am a small business. I could use that. We all work from our home. We don't have a big, huge network that we need to protect. If you do at your property or at your corporate office because you own multiple campgrounds, you need an enterprise or you need a small business solution. But like, again, there are good companies out there that do this. I think Bitdefender is one of the best. I did my research. I'm really obsessive with that. Another good one is Sophos. Is it Sophos? I think I said, anyway, whatever. Is it Sophos? It's Sophos Antivirus. What was the, oh, okay, I got you. All right, never mind. I messed this up. Now I got it. All right. Sophos is the security plugin. They offer a home version for your house. It's Sophos Home somewhere. I don't know where the heck this thing is. Anyway, they have a Sophos Home version that's really cheap. That would be the second one that I would do. But if you need an enterprise solution, there are other ones like CrowdStrike is a big one. Sentinel-1 is a big one. This is the other firewall company I was talking about, is Security. That is the Cloudflare competitor. So I messed those up. But so that's a backup to Cloudflare that you can install as a plugin, and you can put their web application firewall in front of stuff. You still have to control your DNS and you're redirecting all that stuff, right? Same way. And then Bitdefender handles and Acronis are the two things I have on my computer. There are some other tweaks that I make too, and then don't forget about your phone, guys. Please don't forget about your phone. Like all the apps on your phone, all the things in your phone, like the number one thing that you can do, and I'm sure it's more strict, but like a lot of the government agencies require this from their people, is just turn your phone on and off once a week. That will kill like 75% of what might be maliciously running on your phone. But every app you install is like a WordPress plugin. Every Wi-Fi network you connect to is a potential attack vector. Every unsecure network, please don't forget about your phone. So Bitdefender has an app that you can use for your phone that will scan for malware and protect you against viruses. I use that. I also use Acronis to back up my phone. And I use Malwarebytes to do real-time malware in like addition to Bitdefender. And there are other things you can take, like you can run your whole phone through like a VPN or a DNS router. Like you can change, like Cloudflare has something called Cloudflare. I think it's still 1.1.1. Yeah, free app that makes your internet safer. Download it. You can pay $5 to do it. Whatever else, I do mine at my router level in my basement, so my whole house is protected, right? But if you're not aware, like years ago, the U.S. government, I think the Supreme Court said, do you remember that whole thing with like where the internet companies could sell your data and then they couldn't for a while and then they could again?
Right. Now they can. Yep.
Like how they're spying on all your data and all the websites you visit and selling it to companies is through your DNS. All your internet traffic goes through their DNS. So if you just change it and don't route your internet traffic through their DNS and route it through a Cloudflare, something that's privacy protected and intentionally, or a VPN, they can't see what you're doing and they can't sell your data. Right. And I know, like, I mean, again, this is all overwhelming. This is a lot of geeky stuff, and I want to wrap up the show because I know we're over. But this is so important. And it has been for a long time, but it's getting much, much more important as we head into a world of AI, where these tools for hacking are literally becoming or will be in like 2 years, will be a like, I want to go hack Brian's computer. He lives in Cleveland, Ohio. Well, Calgary, Alberta now, instead of Berkeley, Cleveland, Ohio. You know, like, and it'll just go and it'll do its thing and it will figure out a way to get in and they won't need to know anything. And so you guys have to use these reputable companies and protect yourself. Like there's a reason we use the big boys at Insider Perks. There's a reason we use Cloudflare because they spend tens of millions of dollars every year on security and have thousands and thousands of people working on it. It's what they do. There's a reason we use Google Cloud for hosting. There's a reason you use the big boys, right? So, like, big boys cost money, but big boys protect you, mostly. Sometimes not. Anyway, final thoughts, Scott?
You know, I would have to say that this was a pretty dense conversation, but
yeah,
maybe one of the more important ones we've had, in terms of just really, really doing your due diligence and making sure that this is buttoned up. You know, I think as I mentioned earlier, the idea of fraud came up down in DC for the RV meetings, and it's a topic of conversation at many different levels. And the bottom line is what many people said is the fraudsters are getting more and more sophisticated. And as Brian just discussed, the tools for them to do their dirty deeds are helping a lot. They're a lot more sophisticated. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of Outwired. Sorry for the denseness. It just is what it is. It's a topic we have to discuss. It's something we have to get out there. There's a lot involved in it. But, like, you've got to have somebody that's protecting your business. I'm not the only one. But you've got to be able to ask the questions of your internet hosting provider, your website dev company, whoever's doing this stuff for you, and you've got to hold them accountable. Because if you don't hold them accountable, they're not going to do anything in most cases until they get attacked too. And then it's too late. See you guys next week, another episode of Outwired.
All right.
Peace.
Take care. Okay.